Hi, and welcome to the podcast. You're having tea with Alice. This week's episode is with Michelle Brasier, who is an actor, comedian, singer, all round incredible person. We had just such an interesting conversation about life and death and legacy and beauty and relaxation and how you can make time in life when part of living is being busy. So I hope you enjoy listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it with Michelle. If you have signed up for the Writers' Retreat in Switzerland, it is going forward. We have locked it all in. All the deposits are in. I think we have one bed left. If anyone wants to go over to patreon.com/Alice Fraser and sign up for a week in Switzerland from the 16th to the 20th of September, you can do that over at patreon.com/Alice Fraser. You can also sign up now until the end of the month, which is to say, the end of this week. You can sign up for $1 a month. After that, I'm closing the $1 a month level because signing up at the Patreon gives you access to 2 weekly writers' meetings, a weekly salon, and an irregular book club, all of which I think is a great bargain if you enjoy writing or talking or thinking about things. So patreon.com/Alice Fraser is the place to go. I'm going to stop talking now and let you get on with listening to the podcast. You're having tea with Alice. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. You're having tea with Alice. Who are you and what are you drinking?
I am Michelle Brasier and I'm drinking water because I've had 2 coffees and I've just brushed my teeth. So I was like, I need a fresh mouth, you know?
Yeah, I get that. Water or pre-tea, as I like to call it.
Yeah, exactly. It's raw tea. It's deconstructed tea.
Yep, that's very
I'm
Melbourne
gonna
of
eat
you.
the leaves. Yeah. Yeah.
And what have you been wrestling with of late?
I've been wrestling with so much. Uh I'm afraid I'll never have enough time in my life. That's what I'm wrestling with, which is such a large thing to say, isn't it? And I'm sure that everyone feels that way. And you're a parent, so really, what am I talking about? But I just have no break. I was looking at my calendar, and the next time I have a day off is uh December.
A day off.
One day, one full day. Yeah. I mean, like today I have this podcast with you and then I have a bunch of interviews with the BBC tonight. So it's pretty chill. There's a pretty chill day, which is nice, but I've got to do all my admin and clean my house and things like that. But it's good. It's nice. This is a chill day.
So let's go back a bit and say, like you say, I'm worried that I won't have enough time in my life. When you say time, do you mean free time, or do you mean life is not long enough, or do you mean that you want to do more
Mm.
things and pack them into the day, or there's I mean, or all of those things in
I
varying
think
quantities?
I mean all of those things. I mean, I think that you probably know this. We've either spoken about this or maybe you've seen a show, but like my brother and my father died of similar cancers, and now it looks like maybe I don't have that much time. Like I might be really lucky, but I also am like predisposed to getting cancer young. And so I'm aware of like the relentless march of time is always just kind of there in the back of my mind, but also just at the moment I'm not good at scheduling in a break, and life just rolls on. Like I just got back from America. I did my show off Broadway, which is crazy, and I got to do the show in Dynasty Typewriter, and I went to all these fancy meetings, and I didn't get a second. I didn't give myself. I'm acting as though I'm not in control of this, and it's not my own trap that I've built for myself. But like, I didn't have a second to just go, okay, like enjoy that, like be proud of that. There was no time. It was like, okay, the next thing, get back to Australia. I got back to Australia at like 6 a.m. And then that night I had a gig, and then I had to finish recording my album and then rehearse my band for my album launch. And then like it's just been just this constant roll. And I just checked my Qantas app, and the next time I go overseas is in 11 days. So it's all just very it's all quite mad, but I'm very grateful for it. And I suppose like COVID
I think you
really,
can be grateful for something and also acknowledge that it's a bit fucked. Like,
yeah, yeah, that's true, right? How do you deal with it? I mean, you have got kids. That's very difficult.
Yeah, it's a very weird combination of things. So like you, my mum died, and you know, that makes you feel time very closely pressing on you, that you want to do things in life.
Yeah.
Um, and then at the same time, you want to enjoy life, because if you're just doing things, you're not necessarily enjoying them. But are you? If you're not doing anything, my fear is I just sort of become a kind of an amoeba. And if I
Yeah.
don't have pressures and deadlines, I just won't do anything or produce anything. I say produce things. And part of that is the sort of capitalist trap of thinking that you always have to be productive and useful and functional. And then
Yeah.
also the family thing of being helpful to other people and helping other people.
Yes.
But yeah, those are kind of incompatible with each other, but equally desperate urges of like
Yeah.
being present in your life and also filling your life, but not filling your life so much that you get pushed out of it, sort of thing. And then, of course, children complexify that, because you have a child and then you spend 3 hours at 3 o'clock in the morning staring them in the face and going, I wonder how old you'll be when I die.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, that's
That's quite a
fucking weird.
magnificent, yeah, experience. Jeez. I mean, I yeah, I have a dog and she is very low pressure. So that's quite nice. Like hopeful that I outlive her. Which is something that would be nice.
Yeah, the
But
opposite is
yeah,
true for me, I think.
yes, yeah. I can't imagine what it's like to love something so much that you hope you get to leave it behind. Like, that's very special. I don't know. I think I just like, or maybe that's not true actually. Like, I think that of my partner and all the people I love, because I do sort of just walk around assuming that I will die young, which I think is a safe assumption, but hopefully it's wrong. I don't know. I just watched Baby Reindeer. Have you watched it?
I have
The
not,
TV show.
no. I hear
So
it's
it's a
very good.
series. It's magnificent, and it's a series based on Richard Gadd's one man shows, or sort of two of his one man shows, and the majority is about his
Is that the one that he did
this.
on a treadmill?
It's sort of about that. It's part of that sort of bleeds into it, but it's mainly the one after that, um, which is about his stalker and how
Ah.
it like really intensifies. But he's quite like generous with her, and it really shook me, because I was like, oh my god, like this, I would do a lot of what he did. Like I would really, like I will give so much to a stranger and just nothing to myself. Like I just don't. I have such high expectations. I think it's an arrogance, not necessarily like an altruistic thing. I think it's like I think I can take anything, and so I'm like, I'll sort everybody else out. Like the show that I'm coming to the UK to tour is it's called Reform, and it's about becoming friends with my scammer. And I just watching that TV show, I was like, oh my god, I spent so much time looking after this man, and it's really nice to see it reflected back at you, and to be like yelling at him to like, no, don't be nice to her, no, just go straight to the, that kind of thing. And just being like, god, all the people in my life that must stare at me all the time and be like, stop, you have to stop. But I'm just not good at it. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it. I don't know. Maybe I need to like block out fake work days in my calendar that are a trick. Maybe I should ask my manager, because she runs my calendar. I just say, just put some fake things in there, and then I wind up with days off. And you know,
Yeah, there's two ways that I know that I'm pushing it too much. And I say this as someone who was podcasting while breastfeeding 3 weeks after giving birth,
oh my god, yeah,
um, if I get a fight or flight response to my phone notification going off, if my phone
mm,
buzzes and my reaction is like my heart starts pounding, um,
yeah,
it's like, oh, fuck, what is it now?
mm.
That's a red flag for me. And the other one is when someone cancels something and I am just blissed out with relief. I'm like, oh, thank
Yeah,
goodness I don't have to do that thing that I really wanted to do.
yeah,
And that both of those, I think, are signals for me that that I have in some way abdicated responsibility for my workflow. So it's not in my control.
yeah,
It's the things that are coming at me. that I have to respond to. I feel like I have to respond to them. And at the same time, I sort of
Yeah.
have to set my work up like that, because I will do things if people expect them of me. So I need to set up people to
Yes.
expect things of me if I want to get things done.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's a funny old career, the one we've picked, isn't it? Like it's really quite a strange path, but I guess, yeah, you try and make your own limits, and that you want so much to build, and it is that capitalist thing, but it's also like, we
It's
sort
more
of
than
play
that.
dress ups for a living, and yeah, like we love this. It's the best.
It's not an urgency to be productive under capitalism necessarily. This is because it's also the urge to produce your work, to bring the
Yeah.
artistic things that you have to say out into the world. There is an urgency to that as well.
Yes, and like to contextualize your own story and your own life, and to, be able to like signal that out to the world and invite people into it and go, if you're feeling this, that's okay. I'm feeling it too, and I've put it into words, so you don't have to sit there thinking them in the middle of the night, because I've articulated it. I've done the sentence so that you know the sentence, so that you can say what's got like, there's a sort of desperation to connect, I think, in it as well, in the making of your own shows. And then even just like acting on a set it just taps into something that's so close to childhood, that's like, we are playing and they're paying us. And that's so silly, that I just can't get over. I think because I grew up in the country and it was such a dream. It's very strange. When your dreams come true, it is a strange life.
Yes, because everything feels a little bit surreal.
Yeah. Yeah. And nothing you can't, well, I haven't been able to really stop and appreciate those things, for fear of stopping and losing them, for fear of not continuing and building and building. So yeah, it's a funny old balance.
Yeah, so much of the career in the early days is sort of flim flam and momentum. You're sort of going for things
Yeah.
and trying for things and hustling for things and asking for things and putting yourself forward and out there for things. And at some
Yes.
point, it shifts the dynamic and people start coming to you and asking you for things. But you
Mm.
never feel you can take that for granted, because we can all see that this career is not linear.
Yes. Yes. The rooms get bigger and then the rooms get smaller again. And every time you play a bigger room, you're like, is this the biggest room?
Is this the last time?
Is this the last time? Is this, if I'm first on the call sheet for this show, is this the only time I'm first on the call sheet? It's a strange thing, and it's ego driven, and yeah, but I really love it. I'm sure that it's the same in any career that's not linear, but also just like any career where you're just working so hard to do the thing that you want to do, but also like you can't even enjoy the things that you've done because there's no time. So that's what I'm grappling with at the moment. I'm trying to like work in the bath sometimes when I have deadlines, and like I wrote a book this year, and I wrote a lot of it in the bath, which was nice. It felt like rest.
I wrote my book in Italy, so that felt fancy.
Oh, that's so nice.
It didn't feel like rest, but it felt glamorous, even though it wasn't glamorous, because no matter what I could have been in a basement. I'm just on a computer, but
Yes.
conceptually, uh,
Did you write it like in the sun with like a glass of wine?
no, unfortunately, I wrote it
Oh,
heavily pregnant while juggling a toddler.
oh, vibe.
But there is a
Yeah, okay.
certain, as well, in that kind of, there's a movement going around online of like romanticizing your life, and I don't know if I entirely buy into that, but I
Oh, you
do
don't?
I do believe in, maybe it's just a different articulation of the same premise, of like
Mm.
enjoying the moments that feel sort of narratively or glamorous, even if they're not things
Yeah.
that are actually objectively glamorous. So for example, this week both my kids were sick and I was sick, and there was one night where um basically I was shuttling between them. I had my toddler on the floor on a mattress next to the bed, and the baby in the bed with me, and I was going up, and I'd feed him and he'd go to sleep, and then she'd start coughing and crying and I'd go down, and I was shuttling between them all night.
Mm.
And it got to the point where I could tell from like the intake of her breath that she would need me in 3 seconds. She was about to start crying, and vice versa for him.
Mm.
And I felt so fucking competent I felt like a
Yeah.
ninja. Like, and this is not a thing that you would ever get credit for. It's not a thing that is glamorous, but it felt
Mm.
glamorous in the way that I was like, I am on this. I am doing this. It's really hard. I'm dizzy with no sleep, and I am. It was such an odd feeling of contentment. The only similar experience is really dumb. I was at an airport on the toilet, and the auto flush went off
Oh my
while I
God.
was
I've
sitting
been
on the
writing about
toilet.
this. Yes.
And I jumped like a cat and was hovering above the toilet, and I didn't get the horrible toilet water on my bottom. And I thought, I need to tell someone about this. But there is nobody I could tell about this. But it was just this thing of like, this was a moment of quiet glamour in my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. Absolutely. I'm all about romanticizing everything you possibly can because God, when I die, it will be so meaningful and it will be full of quiet, little, tiny, perfect moment. Like, I just, yeah, I love that. I go for a walk every morning. I get up at 6:30 and I go for a walk before the emails start. And I always go like to a body of water, like I go to the river, and go along the beautiful trails in Melbourne where, you can be in the middle of the city and it doesn't look like it. You can go to Dights Falls or Darwin Parklands or, a Merry Creek Trail, and you just can feel like you're in the country. And I grew up in the country, and you're just with nature and you see the most stunning birds, and sometimes you see snakes, and it's just, me and my dog or me and my girlfriends and our dogs. We have a coffee and just don't check our phones and just move our bodies in the world, no matter rain, hail, or shine. And it's just so nice. And I think like that is one of the most romantic things in my entire life, is just sometimes the way that especially in winter when the sun hits the water and it's freezing cold and there's, mist. I say freezing cold, you've lived in the UK, so what I mean is moderately warm. But like, it's just so beautiful. Like I think we have to romanticize our lives. And I think that you also know that because we write personal shows, we might write personal stories, and we share those, and people see them and they tell us that they feel seen, and they feel, and they feel seen. They don't feel seen by like, I always use, when people ask me to talk about my work, I always say like, people don't feel seen by the fact that like my dad died. People feel seen, like people feel heard and seen and recognize my father in the fact that I say he called everyone by the name of their car. Like it's those tiny little things, and they are, they're so nice, and that's the best thing about being a person, is we make all this meaning where there just simply is none. Like crying on a train, just being like, I am a lady in a movie, it feels so nice to be so sad. Like those sorts of things, I think it's so important. And I think if you're too cynical, you can't access that because you don't believe in the world enough, or maybe you don't believe in yourself enough to be like, I'm a lady in a movie. And I think lady in a movie is the best way to get through things that fucking hurt. Like stoicism, when it feels like you can feel the music swelling under it. And it's this beautiful sort of, it's almost a performance that gets you through to something that is actually real. Like, did you go to acting school?
I did not, no.
There's like all these different ways that you can come from things, and you can come outside in or inside out. And I always think like inside out is like, if you're trying to access an emotion, you can't get it. You can't like get into the mind of the character. You might be like, okay, well, like this sad thing happened to me, try and access that, unlock that. And then you think about that from your brain, from the inside, and then you will cry. The audience will see it. But I saw this wonderful acting teacher, Kevin Harrington, who's a beautiful man. This guy couldn't do it and couldn't get to where he needed to in the scene. And he made him go for a run around the block. He made him go for a run around the block until he was really puffed and just fucking exhausted. And then like hit himself in the chest, like sort of not like beating his chest, but just sort of like, I think just kind of waking up that part of him and making him just feel like to the point of exhaustion, and then now do the scene. And I think there's something that, and he felt it, and he did a great job. And I think that's really interesting as an approach to the world, where it's that thing of like, you smile physically and your brain reacts to it. You can trick like, we're just little monkeys with little chemicals in our brains. Like we're so easy to trick. And I think that using romance and magic where there really isn't any, but just injecting it in. I think that helps us to get through how hard life can be, and also how boring life can be. Like, I think it does give so much meaning.
Well, I also think, I mean, just as a side note, I think running is one of the. I always liked going on runs with people when I was a runner. I would go on runs with people and you'd have a chat, and it was always a more honest chat because you're not looking at each
Yeah.
other, you're running together, and there's some part of your mental energy that is keeping you balanced, and your energy is going to that, and so your filters come down and you're much more
Yeah.
likely to have an honest conversation, I think. Or
Yeah.
people have their walls down to a certain degree.
They do therapy like that now. Did you know that?
I
People go
did
for
not.
walks with their therapists. Yeah. It's a really good, especially like couples therapy, just like because you're just there's something about the movement. But yeah, maybe that's why I love going for walks with my friends as well. Like, there's just something that I don't know. I suppose we feel like the performance is dropped because no one's looking at us, because we're all going forward.
Here's a theory that there's something really satisfying and human that is not being taken care of by the modern world, of making and doing. So, like, if you think
Mm,
about most of history, most of human history, you would have been making something or fixing something or
yeah.
doing something, actively with your body, doing a thing. And so we're kind of built for that. We're kind of built to be repairing or knitting or fucking walking or building or doing something like that. And I feel like it nourishes part of you. Um,
Yeah. I think that's why adults do Lego.
yeah, or coloring in, or
Yeah.
I think video games is the social media of getting shit done as well, in the way
Yeah,
that
that could be
social media
true.
fills your mouth but not your belly with the need for connection.
Yeah.
I think
That's a
gaming,
that's a really great point. Yes. You take a person outside and get them to give them a task. It's so good. Like, my partner Tim loves like doing things with his hands. He just loves like taking things apart and putting them back together, or doing things with wood. And I'm like, I think you should just go and do like carpentry or something, because it so clearly gives you joy and makes you so happy. And I wonder, like, yeah, I wonder if there's something that I don't know what my thing is. I think it's making music. I think I get into that like place when I'm playing music or um doing things like that. But I also try and like I make little collages, and I'm awful at visual art. I'm so bad at it. And maybe that's the joy of it.
yeah, I am a big believer in failing at stuff, doing stuff that you're bad at.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person who feels like high stakes expectations, and you clearly have very high standards for yourself and for the work that you produce, it is nourishing to do something that you're absolutely garbage at, just something that you're
Yeah.
dreadful at.
I used to be terrible at cooking, and I learned how to cook just from like playing with ingredients, because I can't follow a recipe book. Like, I'm really bad at I don't have I am still working on my like maths skills and my real logic. Like, I sort of, if I have to add up more than three numbers, I sort of start to cry. And I have to get my like, I go into my partner, I'm like, can you write these down? Okay, this. And if there's more than like no, more than four numbers, so like up to 9,000, that's okay. But if I see 10,000 plus written down, I don't know how to write that. I can't learn that. I don't know why. Even if I try to count the zeros, they seem to multiply, and I can't. Anyway, there could be a diagnosis there. I don't know. But I just have trouble with that and with logic and things like that. And so following a recipe book is very difficult for me. Like, just specific things that have right and wrong answers are very hard for me. But I learned to cook by just being like, okay, well, what does this flavor taste like? Great. And how does it taste with this? Okay, great. And now I cook, and I'm a good cook, but I can never bake. Like, I can't do that. So sometimes I'm like, all right, let's bake. Let's try and see what happens if I follow this insane recipe.
For me, it was comedy. That was the thing that I was really bad at the first time I tried it.
Really?
And
What?
not only was I really bad at it the first time I tried it, I felt like I did not have the natural tools to apply to it.
Wow.
I was brought up in a household that valued dignity, which is not the skill set that you need for comedy.
No, it's not.
So I had to work really hard to kind of, because I love silliness. I enjoy it so much.
Mm,
I admire it so much, and I couldn't access it for such a long time. And now I love it. Now I
wow.
love what it is one of the reasons why I don't have a lot of imposter syndrome about my comedy, is because I know how bad I was.
That's crazy. Yeah, you're like, I saw where I started. I've done well.
Everything
Wow,
I've
that's
got, I
amazing.
worked hard for.
Yeah, that's incredible. I feel like all of my things that I do well, I do very naturally and have not worked hard enough on. I don't know why. I think that's objectively true. I have funny bones. I'm very silly, I'm very confident. I'm a great singer naturally. I've just gone back to singing lessons this year because I was like, I should be learning this. I should go back to doing this. I should get better, because just because people think you're really good doesn't mean that you can't be better and you can't understand what you're doing more. And also, like, in 10 years time, when I like, my body will change, and then in 20 years time my body will change, and my body's my instrument. So just like things like that. But yeah, I can't imagine, like, that's so amazing that comedy is your thing, that you thought you couldn't do. Like, that's like me becoming a mathematician. That's madness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started at university because I worried that I didn't know how to fail, that I was afraid of failing. And
Wow.
I was afraid of failing. I still am afraid of failing, but I'm doing exposure therapy
You're afraid of
by
failing? Yeah,
constantly
wow.
failing.
I'm getting up.
Uh,
Are you a perfectionist, do you think?
I mean, that's comedy is about failing constantly.
Yeah, I don't mind failing. I'm very lucky in that way. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let's see. Haha, that didn't go well. Like, I quite enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's
But
one
I
of
think I've
the
got such a healthy
greatest
self-esteem.
skills
Yeah.
in life, is to be okay with failing.
Yeah. Do you know, I think that grief helps. Like, do you think that losing your mum and everything you went through, do you think that helped you to access silliness, or do you think it got in the way? Because I wonder if it can go both. Because I feel like losing dad and losing my brother and being told by a doctor that there's a 97% chance you'll get cancer too, was like, okay, well, who cares if they don't laugh? Like, who cares if they think I look ugly? Who cares if, I'm not feminine on stage, things like that. Like, it really freed me with perspective.
Yeah, it's a combination of the two things. First of all, mum being sick meant that I was a frighteningly well-behaved child. Um,
Yes.
and I really feared letting people down, and I really feared failure because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
That makes
at
sense.
some point, my perspective shifted on that. And it, I think it was when my grandmother died. I was working at a law firm, and I thought, she did not walk out of Hungary across the Alps with her dog in her backpack after the war ended and her family didn't come home for me to be miserable in a fucking law firm, you know?
Wow. That's amazing.
And then yeah, when mum died, I think you just think life is not long. Um,
Yeah.
and we are just, we're just somebody else's memories in the end, if we're
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah, exactly. The idea of legacy is so interesting to me as someone who hasn't had children and who probably won't. And my third show is called Legacy. I'm doing it in Edinburgh this year, which I'm excited to see what an overseas audience thinks of it. But yeah, it's about like trying to build a legacy, and what that means if you don't have a family lineage, and how you leave something behind. And can the little girl that you do all your things for, like the scrapbook, can that actually be for me? Can I be the little girl, and can I go back in time and show her all the things that she wanted to do and that I did them? Can I just serve her, and is that selfish or is that kind? Yeah, it's very interesting. to think about that and legacy. Do you think about legacy a lot? Like, do you think about your kids and what they're going to think of you and what you want to leave them with and how they'll describe you?
Yes, at the moment, the 2.5-year-old, basically everything I've done up until now is stuff that she won't remember.
Yeah.
But she'll remember the feeling that I gave her.
Yeah.
These are kind of the underneath the ground foundations of her well-being. You know, how she'll feel when she's alone at night at the age of 23 is what I'm
Yeah.
building now. And likewise,
God.
with my son, every time he cries or before he cries and I pick him up and give him what I know he's about to need, I think, well, there's someone who's going to have an okay relationship with women.
Yeah, that's so special to build that. That makes me feel like crying to listen to that. That's amazing. I hope you
But
feel really
yeah,
proud of that.
I do feel really proud of it. And at the same time, there's this odd kind of dynamic in the arts, particularly for smart young women, that by choosing to have children, you're stepping off the real world. You're doing something that's sort
Yeah.
of base and animalistic and kind of less than you could achieve if you stayed with your mind and you stayed with these higher functions and these kind of intellectual, not these
Yeah.
filthy body things where you push a screaming infant out your vagina, you know.
Yeah.
And that stuff is really interesting. Part of my urge is like, I need to explain to people what this work is and that it's important and good and makes a difference. That I'm like building the highways of the future, that, this human
Yeah.
infrastructure. And part of me is like, this is a completely different value system. You can't compare
Yeah.
them. You can't say being a CEO versus being a mother, because they're different dimensions, they're different planets. They're orthogonal to each other or something.
What does
Perpendicular in some
orthogonal
way.
mean? Oh, perpendicular. Wow, what
Um,
a word. So you're so magnificent. Your vocabulary is so impressive to me. Did you go to private
yes, that's
school?
because I had no friends. I read too many books. I did not go to private school. I just used to skip class and go read fantasy novels in the library. That's what I did.
That's amazing. I love that. I loved kids like you. I wasn't like you, but I loved those kids and I was friends with those kids, and that I was like the funny friend of the popular girls. Like I was weird
Ah,
looking. I hadn't grown into my face yet. I know that I speak from a place of privilege in terms of appearance now. I look pretty decent, but at the time I was an ugly kid and I was a fat kid, and that was nothing like it. You could in Wagga Wagga in the 90s and 2000s, it wasn't cool to be not beautiful and not thin. So I was I was the funny friend of the popular girls. I learned to be funny because I needed to be liked. And then I would always invite like the nerdy girls who were really quiet, and people would be like, oh, Michelle's invited, blah blah blah. But then that person would have like 2 vodka cruises at my party and then become like a legend in the thing. And I felt like that was my like that's part of my legacy, is being like, I gave you a night that you had fun at and people got to see you, not just like you being quiet, but you getting, great marks and blah blah, but like you just being like, here's who I am kind of afraid to be, if you want it, but also I'm going to go back to reading my books and we probably won't sit together. Like that was quite nice. I really liked seeing those girls like let loose. They were really lovely. I was also the person everyone came out to in school.
yeah, yeah. For whatever reason, I am also a person who people come out to.
That
Um,
makes sense. You make people feel very comfortable.
I don't know. I feel like one of the blessings of having been an ugly teenager is that I don't know about you, but I don't really fear aging. Um,
Ah, that's
because it's
amazing.
like I know how to talk to people that don't want to fuck me is the line.
Do you know, I think I'm the opposite. I think, well, I know how to talk to people who don't want to fuck me. I mean, I haven't met any yet, but I something happened when, and I'm glad that you didn't go through this, but something happened when I sort of grew into my face and I lost a bit of weight and I went blonde and I got a hair straightener. And I started, working with sketch group Auntie Donna, who I love. I love those boys so much, and they really helped my career. They gave me legitimacy in the eyes of other comedians, and I think they protected me from the boys club of it all, because I never saw it. I never had to deal with any of it. I was always a cool girl because I had worked with them, and I was the girl from Auntie Donna. So I was very safe, but it also meant that that's a very predominantly male fan base. And that then videos, because they got their start on YouTube, so there's so many comments on YouTube of people being like, oh, she's so hot, and I was like, wait, no, that's not my job. That's not
That's not my
what do you
thing.
mean? Yeah, I was like, that's not me. I'm funny. I'm in this. The reason I am in this video is because I wasn't hot, so I figured this out. And now I think it just happened through a series of events. I lost a bunch of weight, and because of stress.
Isn't it
and
extraordinary? Did you have this? Because I had this.
Yeah.
When I went to university and I started running at about the same time, and I got happy at about the same time.
Yeah.
Which all fed into later being slightly problematic, because I associated being fit with being happy. Problem.
Yes. Yes.
But that within about 3 kilos, there was a window where I would be talking to somebody in the way that I had always talked to them, like a young guy friend of mine. I would be talking to him in the same way, and within about 3 kilos, they went from thinking I was being friendly to thinking I was hitting on them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a strange way the way that the world sees you. It's strange, and it's not fair. And I think it's changing. Like, I think it's changing, but I live in a beautiful lefty bubble of like celebrating all bodies and celebrating all, different types of attraction. But at the time when this first started happening, I was probably like 22 or 23, and people were saying this about me, and I was like, oh, now I owe that to you. And I felt like I needed to maintain that, and I'm still dealing with that. Like, I almost said that when you said, like, what am I wrestling with? I was like, kind of that. And then I was like, don't talk about that.
Don't talk about the pressure to remain hot.
I have such a shame about it.
No, don't feel it. This is one of the things when I leave the house without my baby strapped to me, which is very rare, I feel very self-conscious about my body in a way that I don't when my baby is strapped to me. Because when my baby is strapped to me, it's like, I'm 11 weeks postpartum. Of course I look like this.
You have an excuse. Isn't that funny that you feel like you need an excuse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
To be not, to be medium sized. Like, it's really funny. Yeah. But I'm struggling with the aging stuff. I'm really, I'm afraid of it. I don't know what to do. And I think the problem is I can't do anything. I mean, I can't get Botox and like freeze my forehead, because that's how I make my money, is by moving my face. I'm an actor. I need to be able to tell stories, but I've had the Botox you get for your 11s, like the one that makes you look worried. I've had that, and I loved it.
Comedy value in looking worried.
No, I was like, I can look worried. But I could, there will always be lines in my forehead. I look back at photos from when I was 20 years old, and they were there. They've always been there because I've always had such expressive eyebrows.
How much do you think that your worry about aging, and this is maybe kind of to do with what we were talking about before, is that we don't have a plan for the downturn. We don't have a narrative. We don't have a romantic plan for, I mean, this curve of life, right? When we hit the peak, we're aiming at this peak, we're looking for a peak, we're going to get to the peak, and the moment we hit that peak, all we will be able to see is downhill. So you've either got to reframe your idea of the world so that there's another peak that you're aiming for, or we have to figure out an acceptably romantic and beautiful way to fade out.
I think
what does it look like, those smaller rooms? What does it look like, the saggier face? How does being that also be beautiful, I think?
And I think that if I was to go and freeze my whole face and fill myself with filler and things like that, and eat a raisin every day, that's just, I hope that's encouraging the problem for people who are younger than me. And so I do want to be able to be someone who sort of romanticizes, someone who can be part of somebody else's story. Like, somebody came up to me the other day after my album launch and was like, I love you so much. I love your body positivity. And I was like, I didn't know I was doing that. So I guess I'm brave. Thanks. I'm a size 10. I think you need to Google, but like, sure, like, okay. And I was like, that's really nice, actually. Like, it's nice to be that. And I look at like Olivia Colman. Like I try to remind myself that the people I want to be like and the people that I idealize have never been young, beautiful women. They've always been middle-aged, interesting women. And so I think I just need to find some older, interesting women. And the internet's kind of helping at the moment. The algorithm is serving me some really fashionable older women. So, it's helpful. I just wish, I'm so ashamed of it. I wish that I didn't care about it. I really wish I didn't. I didn't care about it at all until it was offered to me. And then I was like, oh, this is nice.
Well, this is the thing as well, though, like that the shame that I feel when I go out without my baby and feel embarrassed about my body is a shame at the shame that I'm feeling. Like
Yes.
you feel ashamed to be ashamed of yourself. Because
Yes.
you feel like you should be better than that. But what
I
should
should
you
be
be better
above
than
this.
that? You should be above the thing that everybody is telling you is important.
Yeah, exactly. I should somehow be immune. Like, I want to be able to like float above people and be like, oh, I don't understand what you mean when you say, anxiety. I don't really have that. I don't really understand what that's like. I guess I never feel angry. I don't really feel that. I want to be that kind of person who's like atop a high horse going, oh, guys, come on, we can all just be kind and it'll be fine. And then I also want to be someone who's like writing things that people, people always say like, write what you know. I think the best writing is writing what people don't know that they already know. Like being like, here it is offered to you in a way that you have not seen. Like when the first time we saw Fleabag.
Here's the gorilla you didn't notice walking through the basketball match.
It's like, exactly. Like, yeah, just really articulating the worst of us and the shame of us. And when I say us, I kind of mean women. Like I mean everyone, but really, the stories I'm interested in at the moment are women in their 40s and 50s and 60s, which is not helpful for me being in my 30s, but sure, good for me. Those are the stories I want to tell, and those are the stories that's what I want to be playing. Those are the roles I want. I just can't wait to get into that bit. And I think that focus is helpful for me in terms of looking forward to my life. But yeah, I wish I didn't care what I looked like. What a dream. What a treat.
I should tell you about my action comedy movie with two
Oh
women.
yeah.
Oh
my God, yes, you should. Yes, please do. I'm obsessed with action. I love action movies. I love a romp. Like I've been so stressed, and so last night Tim put on Jumanji 2, the next level, and I was like, let's go. Like we got halfway through it and I went, I think this is my favorite movie. Like I wish that my favorite movie was like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but guess what, bitch, it's not. It's fucking Jumanji, and that's just who I am, and that's fine. Like I think it's fun.
I'll tell you who I've always secretly wanted to be.
Who?
Alan Rickman in Die Hard. I want to be a villain that is just eating the fucking scenery. I want to be Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element. I want to be just some
you'd be great at that
cackling villain with a scar across my eye. Just some John Wick motherfucker with like some hideous quirk. That's what I want, man.
Yes, I love that. I think that is helpful. Looking to those things and being like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, I don't know. We do our best. We try what we can.
Well, that brings me to the end of tea, mainly because of baby logistics. Can you tell people what you're doing and where they can find you and where they can support your work?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. I'm at Michelle Brasier, except on YouTube where I'm Michelle_Brasier, because I have a second YouTube I made when I was 19 accidentally and I can't get into it. But I'm just basically at Michelle Brasier everywhere. I'm coming to America. I think this will be out by the time I'm there. But I'm coming to America to do Netflix as a joke. And then I am touring the UK with my show, Reform, which is about becoming friends with my scammer. And it's like a musical comedy, and my partner plays my scammer, and I think it's my best work. So you can find that. You can listen to my songs on Spotify or Apple Music. You can watch me in Auntie Donna sketches, or you could just come to my house and follow me home. Whatever really takes
we
your
learned this
fancy.
from Baby Reindeer. No.
Oh, and my book, you can pre-order my book too. My book comes out in September. It's called My Brother's Ashes Are in a Sandwich Bag. And I love it. It's really fun. I love my book.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having tea with me.
Thanks for having me with your tea.
Oh, do you know her or do you not? This dolphin mistress we have got. Elsie Thompson, it is her name, and she helps the dolphins at every frame. Loudly rifle doll.